Good morning. Good morning, warriors. Steve here. And today we're enjoying our little morning latte here in Korea. It's great to be here. And today we're going to talk about some health and fitness stuff and kind of give some warnings. Unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of people that are coming on to social media in regards to health and fitness. And God bless some seniors that are trying to be information or inspirations to others, and which is good. Being an inspiration is good. Being an influencer is good, I guess. You could, people who inspire. You could think back to the days of, Lou Ferrigno or Arnold Schwarzenegger or Mike Metzer or some of the old bodybuilders, or think those type of people, sports athletes back in the day. You could consider them as being influencers to some degree, of getting people interested in sports or exercising and health and fitness and so on and so forth. So really, there's nothing new under the sun. We've come to this place where it's like, okay, we're influenced now. It's a job now. You can influencing can be a job, which just amazes me. And you don't really have to know anything. Unfortunately, excuse me. So unfortunately, in health and fitness, what I'm seeing, I'm 56 years old, pretty decent shape, and I'm seeing more and more seniors come on to the health and fitness scene, and they're being inspirations to others by posting videos, but there's a problem, okay? There's a problem because, God bless them, some of them are not putting out good information. So the problem that arises is that new people come on and they see this senior who is posting videos about health and fitness and saying information, and they're taking that as gospel truth. They don't verify anything, or they don't ask any questions because they're new and they don't know what they don't know. And they come away with information that minimizes their chances of being successful. So don't be that guy. And I'm just going to give a little example. So there's this guy, and he says the key to building muscle through weight training is the quality of each rep. How efficiently and safely you load and engage the target muscle, not the number of reps or the weight. Quality reps not based on volume or weight. This guy is 74 years old, and he is in good shape. I got to give him kudos for that. It takes a lot just to go to the gym. And when you do that, that's to be congratulated when you start in health and fitness. But to be somebody who's a senior, our age, I'm 56, he's 74. That's what I'm pushing for. And so awesome work for any senior that starts or is still going to the gym or doing exercise, health and fitness or whatever. But for him to say that the key to building muscle is only through quality repetitions, in other words, doing that exercise and that repetition correctly and maybe doing it slow is the key, there's a lot of other missing information. And so I want to talk about that. The problem is, if you don't give all the information, you're setting people up to have subpar results. If you're only giving them a part of the information, they're going to get subpar results. You give them subpar information, that's the result. They're not going to maximize their health, fitness, muscle, and in this case, muscle gain. So we're talking about that. So this guy, he says, that it's only through the quality of the rep. That's true. The quality of the repetition that you do greatly aids, but there are so many other things involved with building muscle. And unfortunately, as seniors come on to the health and fitness stage, what they end up not telling or knowing, maybe, and here's an option. Maybe this guy was given the misinformation, and now that's all he's putting out because that's all he knows. That's entirely possible. But is that the key to building muscle, is just through the quality of the repetition? Actually, you'll only go so far if you don't add volume or weight. And there are studies that have actually showed this to be true. So, as I've grown up, spent time in the military, joined when I was 17, involved in health and fitness, and got back on board after I let myself go and made that decision at 50. And I went from 210 pounds skinny fat, no arms, no shoulders, no chest, but I had a pot belly and a jiggly butt. I guess that's a shape, I guess. But I went from there, I lost the fat, I put on muscle, and I went up to 263 pounds. And then I cut down to 245 pounds, and I did it without any PEDs. It was just nutrition, exercise, recovery. Supplements was protein powders and creatine and multivitamins and over-the-counter supplements, like fish oil and all of that stuff. And it took just over 3 years. So there's a lot more involved to having more than just quality reps and here's the situation, here's the real deal. If you do, let's say you're doing a curl, and let me get something for you. The dumbbell, okay. If I have this dumbbell, okay, and if I'm doing a curl to where it's like, okay, I'm doing the correct repetition, I'm doing the good exercise, I'm doing slow and controlled, and slower negatives are really good for engaging more muscle fibers. If I'm doing that, that's good. And lifting weight with a quality control, so to speak, will create some muscle tears in my muscles. Now, the body's going to respond. It's going to send out a repair team. It's going to fix those micro muscle tears, and then it's going to build more muscle fibers to combat against that resistance of this 10-pound weight or whatever weight that you're using. You do the same exercise, the same routine. Excuse me. Then eventually what happens is your body's going to go into homeostasis. It wants to bring everything back in order into a sense of normalcy. So if that's all the weight that you use and you're doing that quality exercise repetition like this 74-year-old gentleman says, who's in great shape, you'll only go so far, because if you don't put any additional stress or create any additional muscle fiber tears, your body's not going to send out a repair team. They're not going to repair it and build even more muscle fibers. So in other words, you're going to reach a point where the body's going to say, I don't need to do anything, because you're not increasing the weight, i.e. the volume of that exercise. So you're going to come to this point of normalcy or homeostasis, and the body's just not going to put muscle on there for no reason. There has to be that resistance training. Now, unfortunately, with this gentleman here, when he talks about, having, and let me read it verbatim, the key to building muscle through weight training is the quality of each rep, how efficiently and safely you load and engage the target muscle, not the number of reps or weight. And then down below, he has a little text thing on his video. At 74, I choose to age strong, which is awesome. Congratulations. With quality reps, not ones based on volume or weight. If you're looking at building muscle, you need to have progressive overload. Now, what is progressive overload? Progressive overload is a well-studied concept. It is an established fact through numerous studies, by colleges, universities, PubMed studies, people with PhDs, and they do double-blind studies with a control group, and then men, women, newbies, athletes, the whole 9 yards. They have strict controls. They have certain procedures that they go through. The results, they gather information and data by doing blood labs, muscle biopsies, to really confirm of what is the best way to maximize muscle growth. So, with that being said, there's a number of things in progressive overload which adds additional tension to that muscle group to create those micromuscle tears. So the more time under tension, you can say that is a part of progressive overload. But progressive overload generally adds weight. You're progressively adding more resistance to that muscle group. So from what this guy said, saying, quality reps, that's the only thing you need to build in building muscle, that's not the case. Because if you don't keep increasing the weight, you're not going to continue to build muscle. And that's really important to identify, because new people, if they just take what he says as gospel and then they work out with, the 10-pound weight doing correct form and quality reps, but they don't increase the reps, they don't increase the sets or the volume with that principle of progressive overload, they're not going to experience more muscle growth. That's an established fact. There are numerous studies that show this to be true. So with progressive overload, to add more weight, which is going to, in a sense, add more volume, you need to either physically add more weight to that exercise. Maybe I go up from a 10-pound dumbbell to a 20-pound dumbbell, or I do more sets. So if I'm just doing 3 sets of curls, maybe I up that to 4 sets of curls. And then repetitions, let's say I keep the sets the same. Let's say I'm doing 3 sets and I'm doing, let's just say 8 repetitions. If that's what I do, I'm going to peak at a certain level, at that level, and I won't experience more muscle growth because there is no added resistance. But when I add more repetitions, say like 8 to 12, then that adds more weight and volume, more tension, time under tension on that muscle group, which is going to create more muscle tears, which in turn repairs, build more muscle fibers. Boom, there you go, muscle growth. So building muscles, there's a lot more involved. It's kind of like I'm giving you a chair. It has 4 legs on it, but I'm only giving you a chair with 1 leg. That's basically what this guy is doing, is saying, only by quality reps. It's not by increased reps or weight or volume or anything like that. And that's not the case. That's not how building muscle works. So, and I'm hoping he just doesn't know. I'm hoping that's what he learned, and kind of like me, it's like, hey, that's what I heard, and so I'm passing that off as gospel truth. Hopefully, I left a message and basically went over the same information that I'm telling you now. You progressive overload, if you want to continue building muscle, which is what he's talking about, you have to do progressive overload. There's studies on this. There's studies on, he said, don't increase the sets and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, yeah, there's actually studies that have showed what is the best amount of sets for maximizing muscle growth. And it's between 3 and 6 sets per muscle group, depending on, the muscle group. But within that range, 3 to 6, that seems to be the sweet spot for all of the people that they've studied, young, old, men, women, newbies and athletes and so on and so forth. To get the maximum amount of muscle growth is between 3 and 6 sets. Okay. Now you're going to increase the volume. Obviously, when you do that, the volume of weight that you're pushing or pulling or whatever it is, but eventually there's a point of diminishing returns to where you're going to have acceptable volume, a volume that is going to put more stress on the muscles, and then eventually you'll go into junk volume. Junk volume is the stuff where you just do more and more and more and more, but it's not going to have an additional anabolic effect by doing more, because it's just junk. And studies have showed this to be true. So, which brings into question, what is the best amount of repetitions to do for an exercise? Generally, from the studies that I've seen, show that if you want to increase strength and power, you do 2 to 6 repetitions, somewhere around there. That will work on your strength and power. If you want to work on muscle growth, then it's about 8 to 12 repetitions. That seems to be the sweet spot there. When you start getting past 12 repetitions, then you're really starting to work on the endurance aspect of the muscles, which is not concerned with muscle growth. Okay, so that's why I'm not concerned with that. This guy says that to build muscle, building muscle, there's other things involved. you have to have progressive overload. You have to have time under tension. You have to increase the volume and the weight that you're pushing. Without progressive overload, you're going to stay where you're at. You might build some muscle, but then you're going to plateau and that you'll stay there. If you never increase the weight in volume or whatever and don't follow the principle of progressive overload, you're not going to build muscle. And so that's what I find problems with seniors, and I'm a senior, I'm 56, is that we get these people that go to the gym, they're operating off of information that was way, way back in the past as gospel truth, but studies have shown that that is not the case. So are you, it's kind of cringy if you think. In my opinion, that's kind of cringy, and you're doing a disservice to the people that you're trying to inspire because you're giving them misinformation or just outright wrong information. Whether out of ignorance or not, I don't know, but it's wrong and it's not helping people maximize the muscle building process. And you could nitpick this to death and say, well, on top of that, what about nutrition? He doesn't mention nutrition in building muscle. If your caloric intake is at a deficit and you're working out doing quality reps only, even if you're doing progressive overload, you're only going to come to a certain place and you're not going to build muscle because you're not having enough protein in your intake to repair and build more muscle. You're not going to take in as much carbs as you need to fuel your workouts and recovery. So there's that aspect as well. And then you could, like I said, you could nitpick this thing to death and say, well, then there's recovery and trying to get, 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night and having, make sure that you have a good amount of time of recovery between muscle groups of working that muscle group out from one time, take some recovery period and working them out the next. For example, I saw a post, I think it was last week, of a elderly senior guy, because I belong to 40 and over fitness pages because I'm a senior. And this guy, senior, us retired guys, we got so much time on our hands. And apparently this guy thought it was good to say, well, you need to do full body workout 5 days a week. And it's like, what? Full body workout? So in other words, I asked him some clarifying questions. When you say full body workout, what do you mean? And he's talking about 1.5, 2 hours in a full body workout, working chest, back, arms, shoulders, legs. I mean, everything, calves, forearms, and it's like, whoa, you're not getting time for recovery, and you're actually hamstringing yourself by not allowing the body to recover. In other words, you're burning the candle at both ends. You can get some good progress, but you'll come to a place of where you'll plateau and you won't be able to recover as fully as you should by doing back to back to back to back full body workouts. Okay. So that's why I recommend, working out 3 to 5 days a week, and you can do a push-pull leg where you do pushing movements like, working your chest. Another day you start doing the pulling movements, which is like working your back. Pulling movements can also be, doing biceps. Your push day would be triceps as well. And the last day you work out your legs, your thighs and calves and all of that stuff. And, throw on a few days of cardio or whatever. That's a great plan, and just keep doing that. Push, pull, legs, and have a day in between. Another option is that you can do the bro split, which I never understood why it was a bro split. But then you have bro science, but you can't trust bro science because it's misinformation. But the bro split is good. So, bro, I don't know. Forget about it. But the bro split is where you work chest on one day, then you work back the next day, and then you work shoulders another day, and then you work, so that for each muscle group, you spend that day working that out. So that allows the muscle group that you just worked to have time to recover as you're working an opposing muscle group. So that's a good workout plan as well. Full body workouts can be done, but you have to have the time between those workouts to recovery. So in my experience and opinion, Full body workouts are good for when you attain a level of physical fitness and you just want to maintain. And you don't want to spend a lot of time in the gym. So maybe, Monday you do a full body workout, 1 or 2 days later you do another full body workout, 1 or 2 days later you do another full body workout. Boom, that'll get you, you do your cardio on those days as well, and boom, you've checked the box, you're good to go. You're maintaining that level of fitness that you want through resistance training, cardio, swimming, whatever it is. And that's the full body training, that's it. Trying to do full body training back to back to back is not beneficial. You're burning the candle at both ends. You're not allowing the body to recover, and that is going to impede whatever goals that you have set for yourself. By you're just you're slamming the body with exercise and resistance and stress, but you're not giving it time to recover. It's kind of like everybody in school hated pop quizzes. Pop quiz, and you're like, oh, sure, because I never read the books until the very end. But imagine if you went to class and every day, or every day was a pop quiz, and it's like, damn, I need time to recover. I need time to study. I need time to, it just wouldn't be conducive to good learning practices. Well, in the same way, back-to-back full body exercises is not conducive to muscle growth or recovery. So keep that in mind. So yeah, a lot of information going on, but that's the problem I see with seniors getting into health and fitness and throwing stuff up onto the interwebs. Younger people do this too. It's amazing how I see younger people posting their videos. I don't do TikTok because I don't want China to know everything that's on my phone. But, I've seen videos of youngsters putting out misinformation as well. And it's like, no, that's absolutely not true. So we have this mix of young people and old people that are putting out misinformation or downright wrong information, either out of ignorance or willfully, which is even worse. And that is creating a problem for new people that are coming into health and fitness. I mean, why can't, and the people that I don't like, not this gentleman here, he hasn't responded yet to the information that I put out. Matter of fact, let me comment was, and here's a problem. Guy says, keep up the good work. And it's like, he doesn't know about progressive overload. He doesn't know about the things that we talked about. And he's just taking the 74-year-old guy's word as gospel. That's the key to building muscle is only through the quality of the repetition, not volume or weight or progressive overload, time under tension, none of that stuff. So great advice: avoid injury, work the muscle more effectively and efficiently. There's, like I said, we already pointed that. Oh, that's him. Yeah, avoiding injury by doing quality reps is important, but how do you determine the weight so that you can do that while building muscle and doing quality repetitions that spurs on maximum muscle growth? That's something else that I just popped into my head. I'm like, oh yeah, there's that. When we're looking at personal trainers and organizations like NASM and ISSA and big fitness trainer, personal trainers, and their curriculum is based off of studies from PubMed, university studies, and so on and so forth. They recommend, as far as the safety factor, of working within 70% of your 1 rep max. And when you do that, you come into the greatest level of safety. You're not putting yourself at risk, because after that 70%, they start seeing an uptick in injuries, strained muscles, accidents, so on and so forth, which is compounded when you're a senior. So, but as far as saying work the muscle more efficiently and effectively and efficiently, I don't know. But here's what I ended up saying. Great job, but that's just one part of the equation. Quality is important, but studies show progressive overload through increased reps, increased time under tension, or more sets and reps maximizes muscle growth. Numerous studies in this. Doing 1 out of 3 will only get you so far. If you can do all 3, that optimizes muscle growth. A new person who does not who does not know might think quality is all you need, when in fact there is much more to muscle growth than just that. If you don't use progressive overload, the body will get used to that weight and stop making muscle. Something to keep in mind. And then, he answered back. He says, agree. Adding weight or time and going to MMF are key to muscle growth. I've never heard I don't know what MFF is. I came from the more weight sets time school, but had to change due to injuries and burnout. Recovery time is another factor to grow muscles and strength. Thanks for your input. Yeah. So, it's interesting that it's kind of like, it's like, well, yeah, sort of, blah, 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 but increase, with injuries and so on and so forth. And it's like, well, there's still, now it's still partial information. If you have injuries and that's all that you can do, why didn't you say that in your text, in the comment, or the video itself? That's a very important piece of information, because if you're operating at a place where you are injured and you cannot add any progressive weight through sets, increased sets or reps, or adding more physical weight, i.e. more volume, then what you're doing is a person to the point, the new people, thinking this is how you do it, when in fact it's not how you do it. It's just how you do it because you're tending to injuries and you can only do so much. Okay. So in other words, he's at a place now where he's just trying to maintain the weight that he has and the physicality that he has. But as you saw in his comment in the video, that's not what you said. So, I have a problem with that. So really, when it comes to the point of putting this information out, there are studies that have been done to, what can we do to maximize muscle growth? What can we do to maximize fat loss? Like I mentioned, there's a number of myths out there that we think are true, and like the myth that, keto is better, no, carnivore is better, low fat is, and high protein, low carb, high fat, whatever. All of these diets, people are jockeying for position, and everybody is saying, well, I lost 100 pounds on this diet, and I lost 100 on that, and this and that, and it's the bee's knees. This is the only way. It is more superior, significantly more superior than any other of the diets out there. You'll have people that'll do this, and then it's like, well, what do the studies show? I had a chat with an individual through Messenger, and he's like, no, the keto diet is significantly better in all aspects of diets than anything else, and nothing compares to it. And I said, well, where did you get this information from? And of course, he touts his own experience. Okay, your own experience does not dictate what is good over the populace. Okay, it's there's a lot of different variables involved, and so through this discussion I had with this guy, I let him know about the studies that have been done on 41 different diet options, and they did a study with the double blind. They had a control group, and they had all these different people doing different types of diets, and they okay, well, which one's more effective? Is there one significantly or those that are significantly more impressive or offer better results than the others? And the test concluded with hundreds of people that no, there was no one that stood out above the rest and said, we are more significant as far as weight loss and this and that or whatever. They all were basically the same. So the result was, the conclusion was, it's down to personal preference. So if you latch on to keto, study actually said, include intermittent fasting, is that the best is calorie reduction. So yeah, so if you want to do calorie reduction diet, nutrition plan that has high protein, carbs and low fat, or low carbs and high fat and protein, or the various other with the Atkins, the Ornis, the whatever diet plans there are out there, keto, carnivore, blah blah blah, that it comes down to personal preference. It doesn't, and that's within a 6 month time frame. And after that, they stop the study, but after that, for long-term weight loss, now you have to get into a maintenance phase. So now the question comes in, which diet is good for long-term sustainability? Okay, there's problems with keto. There's problems with certain, diets that reduce the intake of certain things, which is not really healthy for the body over a long period of time. Low fat, if you get yourself down to a really, really low body fat level and you still have a low fat diet, you need fat in your body to do the processes of the body to remain healthy. We have to have fat in our body. So, what is your long-term plan? So anyway, that's why I want to talk about this morning is the people that are putting information up, and either it's misinformation or partial information, either willful or out of ignorance or, whatever, trying to be an influencer. When you're educating people, you need to tell them the whole story. Kind of like that guy, he says, well, I have injuries and blah, blah. Well, maybe you should tell people about that you're injured and you can only do certain things. And they're taking it as not being injured. And you're saying that this is the only way that you can build muscle is through quality reps. Yeah, probably should have mentioned that, in my opinion, just saying. So anyway, that's going to be it for today, Warriors. I'm going to go out and going to finish my latte. I'm going to have my morning protein shake, throw some carbs in there with some oatmeal and some fruit and so on and so forth, and get primed for the day. Go back to the gym today because I had a good rest period. Going back today, going to be working arms and some of those smaller muscle groups. So we're going to get that on, then have a full day of recovery and go from there. So Adam says that actually makes sense. It's definitely important to have some fat in the diet or the body wouldn't be able to process vitamins. That's true. Yeah, exactly true. Fat is a needed thing. Water is a needed thing. Sleep is a much needed thing. Good nutrition is a needed thing. So when you hyper focus on one, or you forget to include other important information, when we're talking about building muscle, detail matter. The devil is in the details. And if you leave out those important details on how to maximize that muscle growth, you're going to minimize your muscle growth. All right, we'll see you. Peace. Good stuff. Good stuff.